Hello everyone and welcome back to Inspiration Connect. It's great to see you here again. Today's video is going to be all about managing your gremlins, and I really wanted to cover this off quite early on in the history of the channel because if we can tackle this head on from the outset, I really believe that any videos that follow and any experience you have that follow, you'll be able to get over these gremlins and help manage these gremlins to live the life that you really want to lead. And I'm a firm believer that, there's so much potential in our lives there, and once we've managed these gremlins, we really can achieve what we might have thought before was totally impossible. So we'll see how we go, and stick with me on this one because it can be quite challenging at times, but ultimately you have the power to make the change that you want in your life. So what we're going to do, the structure is, we're going to look at what is a gremlin. Then we're going to consider when does the gremlin show up, and then we're going to look at what exactly does your gremlin say, followed by what does the gremlin want. Then we're going to look at some techniques for essentially limiting the hold that this gremlin has upon you, and some phrases or some thoughts that you can invoke which will tame that gremlin, manage the gremlin, and allow you to lead the life that you really want to lead. So first of all, what is the gremlin? Well, we're probably all familiar with the concept of that little voice in your head, and we all hear it from time to time. Unfortunately, it's with us for our whole life. You can't totally eliminate it. But what differentiates those who ultimately lead very successful lives and those that lead quite stagnant lives, in part, is to do with how they manage that gremlin, how they manage that voice in their head. Now, some people can imagine that it might be an animal sitting on your shoulder. Whatever works for you, you will be able to identify it in some way. But, as I say, we've all experienced it. So, when exactly does that gremlin show up? Well, invariably the gremlin will show up and raise its ugly head during times when we might be going through some potential change. The gremlin itself really loves status quo. It doesn't want you to do anything other than you're currently doing. It's very comfortable just sticking with life as it is. It's easy, it's familiar, it feels good, it feels comfortable. We're in our comfort zone, so therefore the gremlin at that time is pretty content. Now when you start stretching that comfort zone, when you start expanding beyond what you thought was capable into the slightly unknown realms of our lives, that's when the gremlin starts to grumble a bit. It'll be a little bit uncomfortable. It'll start raising these little voices in your head because it doesn't want you to excel. It doesn't want you to grow. It doesn't want you to develop in the ways that ultimately you really want to develop. It's there to hold you back, and it's there to hold you down. This gremlin is faster, it's sharper, and it is much more experienced than you think for it to be fooled. So, if this thing is always here, how do we really get to manage it? Well, let's kind of focus on first the sort of things that it might say to you. Take, for example, you're about to take on a new piece of work, and you're really excited about this because it's stretching your boundaries. Now, all of a sudden, these little voices start appearing. Do you have experience to do this? Oh, I don't think I can do this. Oh, but so-and-so in the next team, they'd be much more experienced at doing this. I'm sure they do a much better job. I don't want to show myself up. I don't want to fail. That's a big one. I don't want to do that. And these are the kinds of things that your gremlin can say to you. We all are familiar with these sort of phrases. Or something maybe like, do it tomorrow. I won't do it today. I'll think about it and look at it tomorrow. That is a gremlin also rearing its ugly head and stopping you from preventing you moving forward and ultimately pushing through your comfort zone into that stretch zone where your potential can be raised and you're really, really realised. So, what does it really want? Well, as I've said before, it wants you to stay where you are. It doesn't want you to grow or develop. It's very limiting in that respect. And it should definitely be managed because we don't want to lead these mundane lives. We're here for something much greater. We are here to excel. We are here to, let's look back on our lives and we want to be proud of what we've achieved, and we want to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. So how do you limit the hold of this gremlin upon you? Well, I think the first step to do is to notice it. If we notice that the gremlin is there, and we notice when it's rearing its ugly head, that is the first step to controlling it to a certain extent and ultimately managing it. By noticing it, we're therefore recognising it as well. And to recognise it is very important. Recognise those phrases. There might be some repeat phrases or repeat times in your life when this phrase or this gremlin is appearing. It might be a potential block that you've noticed when that gremlin is rearing its ugly head and telling you to stop. Don't do that. Come back. Stay nice and warm and comfortable. It's much nicer here. We don't need to grow. We don't need to expand. But that's where you need to say, actually, we do. And the third step really is to name it. Give it a name. Imagine it. Dress it up in some ridiculous clothes so that when you think of it, you laugh at it. That will immediately start to reduce the power that it has on you. If you can name it, it's much less powerful and much easier for you to control. You can name it whatever you like. It's entirely up to you. So now that we've kind of got a couple of little strategies we can use, what other phrases can we ultimately say? And it's things that you can say to yourself. It might be images that you can create in your mind, which will help you overcome this. The first thing to remember is when this gremlin is rearing its ugly head, it's going to be at a time of change. There's going to be something happening in your life which is going to be encouraging you to grow as a person. So what I want you to do is really focus on the emotions and the feelings attached to what it's like to grow. You know, when you see yourself the other side of this barrier, this gremlin, what's life going to be like? You picture it, really focus on it and look at the strengths. Think of the enthusiasm that you've got. Think of the passion that you have for this life that you want to create. Really feel it and focus on that as if you've already got it, as if it's already happened. You're creating some emotional discomfort there because what you're doing is you don't want to, or you ultimately want to limit the impact that this gremlin has on you. And if you can really tap into that, what is your life going to be like once you've moved past this? That is really great motivation for pushing through instead of living the life you've always lived, which is not a great option for many of us. For some people, they're happy with that, and that's totally fine. The beauty is we have a choice. We've got a choice to make. How do we want to live? And in my opinion, why not live the best that you possibly can? That's got to be the best way. It's got to be the only standard. But as I say, we're all different, and whatever works for you is absolutely fine. So another way is you can address it head on. You can talk to it. When it raises its ugly head and it says, "Oh, I can't do that," it's, hello, I notice you. You're back again, are you, with that old phrase? Well, I hear what you're saying, but we're going to do it anyway. Because of this. Because of that. Because I really want to make my life better. Sorry, hope that's been helpful. Not a particularly long video today, but I just wanted to touch on that, just to really establish the fact that we all can manage our gremlins if we just put a little time of effort into it. Repeat it each day, each morning, each evening. Have a think about the life that you really want to lead. Create that motivation there for you to push through in times when that gremlin is going to rear its ugly head. But as I say, notice it, recognise it, name it, and that will reduce its power over time. And see how it goes for you guys. Well, I really hope that you found that video helpful. Please do not forget to subscribe to the videos, subscribe to the channel, and also switch on those notifications so that you hear when these new videos are uploaded. And until next time, have a fantastic day. Thanks very much.